Hello friends, it's Techman Pat. Hope you are well. Today we are checking out this. This is the ASUS ROG Strix number 3, the third version of this laptop. Now this laptop starts at around $3,000. You can get it at most retailers, even Amazon actually, but Harvey Norman's is the official place to get these ASUS products, so I'll put a link below to that store. So, and big thanks to ASUS for sending me this laptop for review. You guys might have seen my previous review of the second generation, the Strix 2, and this is the third one, so straight after, came out very recently, so I'm really excited to talk to you guys about it. And there's been a huge bunch of changes internally and on the outside, a few gimmicks and a few extras that I just cannot believe the other laptop doesn't have it. So let's start off with the outside. First of all, a thing that you guys might notice straight away that has changed is that there's no number pad on the keyboard. Look, a change that I haven't really noticed because originally when I did have the Scar 2, I didn't use the numpad a lot, but I did like it being there. Maybe I've used it a couple of times, but I haven't felt the change here, so I don't mind. The keyboard now is spaced out a little bit more in the center and it feels really good to type on. In fact, a couple of the scripts you guys might have seen before this week, I've written on this laptop. Now the little mouse pad over here has the little numpad button, which allows the actual numpad buttons to show on that mouse pad, and you can tap them in, so if you're really looking to tap a lot of numbers, you can do it through there, and it's actually really responsive, surprisingly. So I wouldn't call it a gimmick, I would actually call that a smart thing, a very useful thing to do. In fact, I've actually used it a lot more than I used the other one, I guess maybe just to play around with it. Now, onto that mouse pad. It is fantastic. That trackpad is amazing. It's even better than the last laptop. It is so exact, so precise. It actually feels a little bit better than a MacBook. It actually feels a little bit better than a MacBook trackpad. Now I know that's a lot to say. The one thing that a MacBook trackpad has going for it is the size. I think this could be a little bit bigger, especially with the space saved from removing the num keys, but it's still really good. The buttons on it are really nice, they click, they're actually square this time, doesn't really change much in my opinion, but they're really good to click. But you probably wouldn't be using this as much, but when you do, I found it very useful, and you'd probably only be using it when it's on battery. So it's spaced pretty well, it's in the center and works all right. Any other time you want to connect a mouse to it, a wireless mouse preferably, but obviously wired mouses will do, you'll just have an extra wire. But speaking of wires, let's look at the I/O on this device. And one of the first things you'll notice is the power cable is actually on the back. And I can't believe more laptops don't do this. They're always on the side, getting in the way. I really like the fact that the power plug is at the back. It just works really well. It's out of the way. And you know what? It just makes sense, because now on the side, we've got a bit more space and we can have, 3 USBs, a 3.5mm jack, and on the other side, this weird little key. We're going to talk about that in a second, because I think this is the first gimmick of this laptop that I just don't get at all, and it pops up with this screen over here. And on the back, we've got a Ethernet port, we've also got a HDMI out, and we've got a USB-C, which is awesome, and that can go out to a secondary screen, which is really good. On the top, we've got a nice different look. It's polished metal now, aluminium maybe. I think it's metal, but it looks really nice. Less plastic, which makes the product a little bit more premium, but the fact that it's mixed with plastic kind of doesn't really help. But the internal side here is got a little bit of a matte finish, and the design is absolutely spot on. They've changed a few things on the back. It looks a little bit different. The heat dissipation is a little bit better on this one because the screen has a little bit more space around here, and the battery lasts a lot longer, so it's got more space in the back. Now, one thing you'll notice is there is no webcam in this laptop, and you know what? I've complained about the webcams being a little bit crappy, but I always appreciated the inclusion of a webcam, no matter how crappy, because in a pinch, you can make a video call, you can even use it to take a quick photo. Look, in a pinch, anything will do. So I'm a little bit disappointed that the webcam is not there. So something to note, if you're looking to buy this, it has no webcam, so you might have to buy another webcam. But you know what? Everything else makes up for that loss. With all these exciting features, I wanted to highlight some things that the laptop does really, really well, and people don't usually talk about. These are things that just you take for granted. So first off, let's start with the sound. The sound is absolutely amazing. The two speakers on the sides play out sound that actually sounds reasonable, to the point where you're more than happy to use that without actually putting on headphones. And I'm really happy with that, because sometimes you just can't be bothered. You're in a quiet place, maybe you're in a hotel, maybe you're traveling. You don't need headphones, just chuck it on, and you can even watch a movie with some great sound effects. The Wi-Fi on this device is something that I just cannot believe how well it works. There are no disconnection issues. It picks up every single Wi-Fi inside the home, and actually all your neighbors. The antennas work really, really well, and the way they've designed this weird little software feature means it does actually connect stronger and faster. Now, I don't know the specifics of what the software actually does, but for some reason, every time I use this device rather than, let's say, my MacBook, the connection is much stronger and I get a slight speed increase. I've noticed about 10% when I do a speed test. Overall, the laptop is really, really fast. The keyboard is fantastic to type on, and the lights are really fun to use. This screen is 240 Hertz and 3ms gray to gray. Now, 240 Hertz on a big computer, a tower computer, is absolutely amazing. On a laptop at 1080p, it's also amazing. Don't get me wrong, 240 Hertz works great. Actually, 144 Hertz is also really good. So this being bumped up to 240, if you've been playing at 144 Hertz and you can hit those numbers, then you won't really notice a difference. I think on average, 140 Hertz is just the really good sweet spot to play fast first-person shooter games. Games like Control that recently have come out and I got to test on this laptop really don't make a big difference with that, because the RTX 2070 that's in this laptop just cannot hit those high numbers with those AAAs that are brand new. Battlefield 5, for example, 100, 110, that's the frames I got. And unfortunately, that means that that 240 Hertz screen is just underutilized. And recently, ASUS came out with a 300 Hertz screen, and it's just like none of the performance that's in the laptop can hit those numbers. So what's the point? Well, if you're playing Counter-Strike, maybe you can hit 250, you can hit 300, that's not a problem, but a lot of the games are just a little bit more demanding, the AAAs especially. You just won't be able to hit those high frame rates. But in saying that, you will be able to enjoy anything above 60 Hertz, and if you're buying this laptop, understand that that 240 Hertz refresh rate screen is not going to hinder your gaming at all if you're playing at 120 or 140, whatever you can hit on a game in changing graphics settings and so on. Now, this is my first experience with an RTX card. This is a 2070. It works really well as a graphics card, absolutely no problem at all. And that RTX, that ray tracing that makes it unique, well, I was very skeptical about it. And the games I got to test it with, Tomb Raider, Control, and Battlefield 5, I don't know, it just didn't make a big difference. It just didn't make my Battlefield experience any better. It didn't make my Tomb Raider experience that much better. It is beautiful, and playing it at 60 frames a second on a 1080p screen is really good. The colors on the screen really show the game, and that RTX, that ray tracing, does show its great features a little bit every time there's a water feature or there's a little bit of a wall with colors. It does look great. Control wise, the game, plays really well. You get about 50 to 60 to 70 with RTX on, and again, it looks pretty. But the lowering of the frame rates just doesn't really cut it for me. I do like smooth gameplay, and I found myself, well, for Battlefield 5, for example, turning it off. For Tomb Raider and Control, I left it on. Now, next generation of RTX cards, the 3000 series, if they are able to maintain high frame rates and have that RTX ray tracing effect, that is going to be the generation to get and turn it on. However, for now, games like Control and Tomb Raider might benefit from it, but it's just not quite there yet. Now, here's the caveat. There is one game that absolutely benefits from ray tracing and runs on this laptop absolutely fantastically. The Core i7 here, it's a 9th generation. I'll put the specs up here for a second. It works really, really well. It's really the card that I'm more focused on here. And that ray tracing and that game that I'm talking about is Minecraft. Folks, Minecraft with ray tracing on is beautiful. You won't believe what ray tracing can do until you see Minecraft using it. It's just beautiful. I was amazed. I spent hours playing Minecraft on this computer because of this RTX card, and I cannot say enough that for that game it managed to have very good performance, very good frames, about 80 to 100, and those colors, those vivid blocks, it just looks beautiful. That realistic lighting, the shadows, you just wouldn't believe it unless you saw it in person. So these videos that you guys are seeing now, just, I don't know if you can really tell how great it looks. Now,
we spoke a lot about the refresh rate, but what we haven't spoken about is actually the color reproduction. It's so good. It's spot on. The darks are dark, the lights are light, and I'm really, really happy about it. In fact, I wouldn't mind even doing some editing work or Photoshop work on it. In fact, Photoshop and Premiere work really, really well with the CPU that's in there at the moment, and the card really helps to do things like rendering. It's really, really quick. I'm very impressed. So that screen, even though it's 1080p at this size, pixels are not an issue at all. Coming back to what Apple used to say with their Retina screens, I don't believe anything above 1080 is required for this screen size or this laptop size at all.
Is it actually worth $3,000? You get a pretty decent hard drive. It's a terabyte hard drive. It's an SSD. It's fast. It loads everything really, really quickly. There's a room for expansion. It has 16 gigs of RAM, plenty enough for all the AAA games that you want to play. That screen is absolutely magnificent, but you can only play all these AAA games when you're connected to a power outlet, because the battery just cannot manage those levels of performance. It just drains a lot of power, and the battery just doesn't have enough. So again, while it's a mobile device, you're going to be playing it stationary. And again, if you want to play those AAA games, you're probably going to require a power outlet, and you probably want to have a desk with a mouse. So this generation of laptops from ASUS has the latest RTX, the latest Intel CPU, and it has a great screen. And they finally understand that going 4K or going 1440p on a laptop is just not viable. The screens are too small. There's no reason to do it, because most people will prefer the higher refresh rate and the ability to have their games perform. So I really applaud ASUS on building laptops that stick to that, and even pushing it a little bit further with a 240 Hz screen. It really makes a difference in regards to desktop, so guys, enjoy that. Obviously, gaming depends on your frame rates you can actually achieve. Now, finally, I want to talk about the last thing they've added, and then there's this little key. It's called a yellow key, this one. It has a little NFC chip in it, and it slots right in here, and when you put it in, the keyboard lights up, things pop up, and things happen. But what does it actually do? Well, you can have a little folder on your computer that's locked, and it can only be opened when you have this key in here. So what can you stash in there? I leave that to you guys. You can imagine what you can stash in a folder like this. It also carries your settings, your maybe overclocks for some of the CPU, maybe your profile settings for colors on the keyboard. It carries a bunch of information, but if this is your primary laptop, why do you need to carry these profiles around with you? Well, one thing you could do is reset the whole computer, plug this back in, and all your profiles will be back in there again. Pretty good when you want to clean up the computer, refresh Windows, reinstall it, whatever. but I feel it's a bit of a gimmick. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind having maybe extra USB or maybe something else there, something that actually be useful. To me, this was not useful. I'm not gonna hide stuff on my computer and use this key and be like, oh, I'm away, there's something locked in here. Oh, where's my little key? I'm gonna lose it. Oh, my files are locked. So performance-wise, the 2070 makes this laptop a true first-person esports laptop. So if you're out and about and you still want to hit those ranked games and games like Siege or Counter-Strike or Call of Duty or whatever it might be, Battlefield, this is the laptop for you. The last generation was more of a MOBA gamer, but if you turned out the settings to low, you could play some first-person shooters. This is a true first-person shooter laptop for gamers, and it'll also perform really, really well on those adventure games like Control and Tomb Raider. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it when you buy this laptop, and if you're willing to pay that high price of around 3,000 Australian dollars. Now, what else can I say? Let's talk about RGB. This laptop has really, really cool RGB. Not only is the logo on the top here RGB colored, there is a whole RGB strip that goes all the way around the laptop here and looks really cool at night. The keyboard lights up, but I would wish that the keyboard lit up a little bit more. It's not as strong lighting. I mean, it's stronger than the other laptop, but I wish it was a little bit stronger because in daylight, I'd like to see it a little bit more. With all these lights on here, I know you can't see it very well, but at night it does light up and it's all good. Finally, let me discuss a couple of items I also found the same with this laptop and the other one. It's very loud. The fans do boost when you're playing a game and it sounds, you can hear it. It's very high, the fans do whine a little bit, not like a whiny whine, but you can definitely hear them, and the air that it pumps out is very, very hot. Now the 2070 does not throttle at all on this. So I'm very impressed with the way ASUS has managed the heating in this laptop. That CPU doesn't throttle at all either. I've done some tests, have a look at those scores, and I'm very happy with the heat management, but again, it's loud. So I guess at the moment, due to the way things work, we just can't get a quiet laptop without it overheating. So I'm fairly impressed that they've managed to pack a 2070 in there anyway. Lastly, you get a bit of software in there from ASUS and ROG. They do create some really great profile managers and some OC managers, but again, if you're buying a laptop like this, you probably know quite a bit about computers, and if you don't, you'll make use of it. If you do, you probably won't even touch the software at all and use your own. One thing I do suggest when you get this laptop, due to not ASUS, not ROG, but due to Windows, there's a lot of crap you need to clean up, so I highly suggest doing a clean install and getting rid of all that bloatware like those stupid candy games and all sorts of other things in there. So you gotta make sure that's clean. Make sure to update everything and you'll have a very smooth experience. So these laptops have changed my mind about one thing, and that is about having a gaming laptop. They are so good that the experience you have on them playing games, you might not ever need to build a whole tower, get a monitor, and for $3,000, you're done. You're done, you're happy, and you're gonna have a great experience. Sure, you can't upgrade the graphics card a couple of years from now, but this will last you long enough to actually be happy and not really worry about building your computer or having a tower, and you can carry this anywhere you go. Obviously, you can't plug in a big external monitor and get the same high refresh rate, but nonetheless, I think this is a very good buy, and it's definitely changed my mind about gaming laptops. Actually, the last laptop did already. This one's just solidified the fact that ASUS has made some of the best gaming laptops I've ever tried. And when I'm in a store and I've gone through all these laptops, I always come back to the ROG one because somehow this look, while it looks gamery, it actually looks pretty darn smooth. So friends, thank you very much for watching. I really like this laptop. I really highly suggest that if you're in the market for this type of priced laptop, it's a great laptop and you'll be very happy with it. If you're looking for something cheaper, do look at the older lineups. You'll get a little bit less performance, but you might actually be able to play a lot of games on the go. And finally, thank you very much for ASUS for sending this for review. Another great laptop, really appreciate it. I can't say anything bad about it, apart from the key, it's kind of useless, but whatever, right? In any case, I'm really keen to check out some more laptops from other brands. I'm gonna look into MSI and I'm gonna look into Dell. They've got some really cool looking laptops and hopefully they'll perform also, and I can suggest those to you guys if you're in the market for a gaming laptop. Thanks for watching. Hope you like content like this. If you do, consider subscribing and give us a like if you like this video in particular. If you want to check out the review of the Scar 2, I'll link that below. And friends, I'll catch you guys in another video. Bye!